Man, I love the show, and the cast is freaking great. Um, eh,
Okay.
when you're working on a show like this, do you get like super excited about the possibilities of who you can cast?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Um, yeah, I was just saying the other day, like working for Apple and doing an Apple show really opens up the possibilities because you can pursue maybe some people who want to do something a little more cutting edge and cool than you might not get in other venues. So yeah, so I sort of felt like, and with Matt and Alan as producers and Maya as the star, I knew we could aim high. So I was going for all my favorite comedy people. Ron Funches is just one of my, Nat Faxon, like they're just some of my favorite people for years and years. So happy to have them all in one cast.
So when you're like first reading the scripts, do you like immediately start casting in your head?
Yeah. If I don't start reading a script and ideas start jotting down while I'm reading it, it's probably not the right one for me to cast.
Oh wow.
I've passed on scripts where I read it and I'm just not getting any ideas coming through. This one, of course, I sat down and reading it and I'm writing in the margins like people as I'm reading it. Yeah.
You worked with obviously Maya Rudolph before on Forever.
Yep.
Holy crap! I watched that show. I devoured it. I thought that was fantastic. I wish they would make a season 2.
I know. I still bug Matt. Tell me what's going to happen. And when there was what happened, and he's like, "I'll tell you someday."
So how is it working with her a second time?
Great. I've worked with her on other shows too.
Okay.
She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. What can I say? She's so talented.
Was there anybody already cast in the show by the time you started working on it?
Just Maya.
Yeah.
Just Maya. I mean, they had Joel Kim Booster in mind for the Nicholas role, but there were some availability issues. So we did, start looking for backups just in case it didn't work out. And it was pretty down to the wire, the 11th hour, it all worked out. So thank heavens, because he's phenomenal.
So when you first get this, do you like just start making like lists for every single role?
Yes. Yeah, I'll read the script, make lists for every single role, talk to the producers, say, here's my initial thoughts, hear what they have to say, adjust lists as accordingly, and then put out the breakdown to all the agents and start taking pitches and everything. But yeah, I have pretty significant lists before anyone even knows that I'm casting the project.
So obviously number 1 on your list is the person who you really want. Is there a time when the number 1 on your list was actually the person that you got?
Yes. There was a time once on a CBS pilot where I was reading it and it was a romantic comedy, and the 2 actors I thought of, Jane Levy and Nicholas Braun, I thought, oh my gosh, I would picture Jane Levy and Nicholas Braun. And 6 weeks later, those 2 people were playing those 2 roles. That's pretty rare.
That's got to be like shooting the perfect basket, like Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing but net. Yeah. So usually the person who gets the part was on my initial list, maybe not first choice, maybe, things throughout the casting process morph, change when you're putting together all the pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes the person you thought was perfect now doesn't make as much sense opposite this person. So there's a lot of moving pieces when you're casting.
What was the hardest role to cast here?
Nat Faxon.
Oh yeah, he's great.
He is. He's phenomenal. But yeah, we just did a lot of different types for that. A lot of different looks, ages. So that was the hardest one.
Was this all cast through like self-tapes now?
Live Zooms, reading with the actors, and self-tapes. Yes, we did do some chemistry reads on Zoom. Like when we got down to the wire on roles, we would do Zoom. Yeah.
How was a chemistry read on Zoom? How does that go?
see the boxes with you and I right now? That's how it goes. It really is not ideal. And hopefully we can do away with the chemistry read Zoom soon and be back in person. But the one great thing about chemistry read Zooms is I was doing a feature a few months ago, and I had an actor in London, an actor in New York, an actor in LA, and an actor in Toronto, all reading a scene together because they were on Zoom, which you couldn't do, like how else are you not going to get all those people in a room together?
Right,
So
right.
you can tell, you just have to trust me on that. You can tell chemistry on a Zoom and not chemistry, lack of chemistry on a Zoom. You really can.
For like the smaller roles, I would guess like casting through self-tapes or even Zoom is phenomenally easier, I would think, right? Just because, I mean, nobody has to deal with traffic, nobody's
It's more efficient.
flustered. Yeah, efficient.
It's
That's a
not
good way to,
easier.
yeah.
It's more efficient because when I was doing live auditions, I could see 30 to 40 auditions a day. And when I do them at home, because there's no getting up to get the next actor, I can do it while I'm having my coffee in the morning. I can do it before I go to bed at night. I'll see like 80 auditions a day. So it's much more efficient. However, not having an actor in the room and being able to tweak a performance on the spot is a real drag. Actors are having to make choices about characters in a vacuum. Unless you give really specific notes about what you're looking for, you're leaving it to their interpretation, which can sometimes miss the mark. And if I had them in the room, I would make a quick adjustment instead of having to call their agent, have them retape, or sometimes I'll just say, hey, I have notes for them. Let's get them on a live Zoom and record it. But yeah, so that's the part I don't like. Also, there's like an undeniable X factor in a casting room, a presence someone has that may or may not always translate on self-tape.
Just personally, does it give you more time, self-tapes and not having people come to your office? Does it give you more time just to do things for yourself? You know what I mean? Does it give you more time in the day?
No, actually, I feel like I've never worked harder.
Wow. Just because you're watching more self-tapes, I guess.
Because
more.
I'm at my home. So my home is my office. So I never leave my office. So I'm constantly doing it. And also I'm meeting so many more people than I used to and taking so many more chances on auditions of, I've never seen this person. I've never heard of this person. Oh, it's a self-tape. Let's give it a try. So I have met so many new people in the last 2.5 years of self-taping. I have a whole new stable of people I'm going to for roles. So for that, I am grateful. But yeah, I miss being in a room with actors.
I'm an actor too, and I missed being in a room with the casting office. It's just something you can't get around, do the self-tape. So staying on self-tapes, what makes a good self-tape for you? Like something you'll like watch to the end and be like, yes, this person's great.
Yeah, lots of things. I find that if someone has a little, if they're not completely static during the whole audition, which some people think they need to do is sit and just read right into the camera or right off to the camera, you don't need to do that. It's more engaging if you have some movement, some organic movement in there. A lot of times when people lose us is when they add too much improv because it's hard for us to edit that out. I like 2 takes. Sometimes people send 4 takes and then I have to wade through all 4 takes and that's a lot. Mm-hmm. I like 2 takes, and if you're going to do 2 takes, make them different. Don't do the same thing on both takes. What else makes a good self-tape? Yeah, just making the character your own, committing to it, making a strong choice and going for it. Sticking to the script, unless it says feel free to improv.
Do you mind if they're memorized, or can they hold the sides in their hands?
Yeah, whatever works. I can tell a lot of times actors have the scene up on their computer. I do
that sometimes, yeah.
I mean, our office really strives to give at least 3 days notice for a self-tape, if not more. So we don't expect people to be memorized. Whatever works for the actor.
What's some of the biggest mistakes you see in self-tapes or even auditions, whatever those in-person auditions are now? I'm not sure if they exist right now.
A big audition mistake is coming across too needy, too much of the chatting, needing validation, insecurity in the performance. Like that's a big one. What else? Like I said, just doing too much improvising with the material, especially since I do primarily comedy. The script's written with such specific beats. When people change it, it can derail an audition. Sometimes people add stuff and it's great, but you know, yeah, trying to think of some others.
What's the best thing about your job?
Launching new talent, like finding that, giving that person their first job, their first break. That's my favorite part of the job. And like seeing a cast come together, truly, not just because of this interview. The Loot cast is one of my all-time favorite casts. And when you have that first table read and it works, and it works big like that, that it's the greatest feeling. So.
Do you go to all the table reads?
Yeah.
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 Like when you're there watching it, like what's going through your head? Just like, are you just trying to see if everything comes together, like for actors and acting wise?
The first table read of a new show, yes, I'm hoping, please let this work. Let's hope we put this together right. But then once we get into a groove, I just like to sit and enjoy the show. I like to just watch the performances. I don't look down at the script during a table read. I just watch the actors.
I was at I got a part on a show once, and I was at a table read, and like after it was over, they recast somebody, and I was just like, wow, does that happen a lot? I thought that was like nuts, and like people were like running around, like, you know, like the sky was falling or something. It was crazy.
It's the worst. I once years ago had to replace a 16-year-old girl in a pilot on her birthday, and
Oh my God.
Still to this day, I get a pit in my stomach when I think about that. You know, sometimes changes are made for many different reasons.
That I can imagine that would be just horrible to news. So with somebody without an agent, how would you like someone to, is it possible to get in front of you?
Yeah, you know, I get unsolicited emails to my work email account or postcards when I was in an office. And we always did, when we were in the office and we were getting postcards, we used to have the lucky pick of the week. We'd pick one out and what can we bring this person in for? I have a whole file in my computer, audition favors, like people who send me stuff or reach out. And I just think that it was ballsy of them to do that and make that introduction. And so I'll keep them in mind if I have something to try them for. I just did that this week. There were three people from my audition favors. I had some co-stars in my ABC show, and I just was like, let's try these people. So yeah, it's harder now. It's harder now that we're not in offices.
Right. When you're looking at a resume, what's the one thing that kind of stands out to you? Like training?
For me, I'm looking for comedy credits usually. Like, have they done any comedy? Is it, even if it's UCB, if it's just theater comedy, I'm looking for some kind of comedy credits usually.
Do you think, I just popped in my head, do you think actors, comedy actors have an easier time transitioning to drama as opposed to the other way around?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's harder I think there's drama actors that can do comedy and comedy actors that can do drama for sure. But I do think comedy tends to be a little harder to cast because it is a very specific skill. It's a rhythm, it's a timing. So yeah.
Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
What's the best audition you've ever seen? You're like, wow.
Oh my gosh. 32 years of casting here. That's a lot.
I know.
I'm trying to think. I might need to come back to that one. I've seen so many good auditions. Like the best that's a hard one.
Has there been like an audition that you thought was great and just fantastic, but they didn't get cast because they just weren't right for the part?
All the time. And then I keep those people in mind for the part they are right for. Or they're people that are right for the part, do an amazing audition. Like we'll go into screen tests sometimes for series lead, and there will be 2 people or 3 people who are phenomenal. And you think in your head, shoot, these 2 are so good and they're not going to get it. Like that one's going to get it. So yeah, I mean, I see that a lot. And that's why I just tell actors, all you can do is go in and do your best performance, leave it out there on the dance floor, and the rest, the decisions are made in many different ways for many different reasons. Like you can't control the outcome. All you can control is doing your best.
And finally, the question I love to ask, what's your craziest audition story? If there is one.
There are many. I had staples in the back of my head. Well, there's one that's like too traumatic to talk about, where someone pulled a gun out during the audition, and I had a real hard time coming back after that one.
I've heard stories about like that, those exact incidences. It just boggles my mind that actually happens.
Yeah, and when I started to have a panic, he aimed it to the wall and discharged to show me that it was empty, but that didn't help me. No, but one of the craziest, now I lost my train of thought because I got sucked into that memory. Shoot, which one was I gonna tell? Boy, that one just, the staples in the back of my head. We were doing a movie of the week. I was a casting associate at the time. I was reading with an actor, and I was sitting in a chair with wheels that rocked with wheels. And the guy was doing an intense scene, and he grabbed the arms of the chair and he was doing this, and the wheels went back out from under me, and I cracked my head open on the back of the filing cabinet behind me and had to get staples in the back of my head.
Oh my
So that
God.
might be one of the craziest audition stories. I've had people do tearaway pants in an audition. I could write a book. All the things that have happened in the audition room.
Well, hey, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure.
To do that. And man, you cast some of the best shows around.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Loot season 2.
Me too.